ghouls and gals, it's me, Ryan T here, and wait, you know what? This alpha isn't nearly spooky enough to review the Addams Family movie. There we go. Let's get started. Well, I just want to start off by saying the creepy and the spooky, the movie was a movie, they're the kind of irrelevant family. The kind of irrelevant family. You'll sit down and watch this movie and wonder why it's not groovy. Who was it made for? Those are questions you ask yourself while watching the irrelevant family. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Yeah, that's pretty much sums up the Addams Family movie, that song that I just did right there. All jokes aside, like all my new movie reviews, I'm going to keep it short, sweet, simple, and to the motherfucking point. Alright, let's get it started. The Addams Family stars Oscar Hayes, who voices Gomez, Charlize Theron, who voices Morticia, Chloe Grace Moretz, who voices Wednesday, and Finn Wolfhard, who voices Pugsley, and Nick Kroll, who voices Fester, and Bette Midler, who voices this character, and that's pretty much your principal cast. I want to start off by saying the Addams Family, it's one of those things that back in the day when I was a kid, I used to watch the live action movies of the Addams Family. I think they had like 2 or 3 of them. And the first 2 were actually pretty good. They're pretty funny. And that was because of the actors that were involved. You had just a lot of good actors that were involved in that film, and they really made that film work. I mean, these 2 actors especially, they made that film work, as well as Christina Ricci as Wednesday. They made those films work, and Christopher Lloyd as Fester, they made those films work. As opposed to this film, where you have it being, for lack of a better term, dreadfully boring. I mean, there isn't really much going on in this Addams Family movie aside from them, like, being kind of quirky and goth, and, like, it bashing you over the head with its, like, story and moral. That's another thing. This film, it kind of doesn't really have a plot. I mean, the plot kind of just, like, meanders. I mean, the plot is essentially the Addams Family exists. People of the town hate the Addams Family because they exist. All while Pugsley is doing some weird-ass sword dance ritual with his dad, which will make him a man in the eyes of the Addams Family, which, okay. One thing that I'll say that's positive about this film is the voice acting in this film is well done. Oscar Isaac is a standout, as well as Charlize Theron. They both do the voices of Gomez and Morticia respectively very well. As well as Chloe Grace Moretz. She does a really good job at like voicing Wednesday and kind of getting that kind of like perpetually depressed and bored like vibe. As for Finn Wolfhard, his Pugsley is just Finn Wolfhard with, you know, talking through Pugsley, and he's not really in the film a whole lot for me to critique him. I mean, I want to say that Pugsley is on screen of the film like a total of like 10 minutes. I mean, so those of you that are Pugsley fans out there, you're gonna be disappointed. Also, while I was sitting down watching this movie, I kept thinking to myself, 1, the jokes, they fall completely flat. It's not funny at all. And 2, who is this movie for? I mean, really think about it. Like, who did they make this movie for? I mean, 1, kids don't really know who the Addams Family is, nor do they give a fuck about the Addams Family. And 2, this film is way too kiddish to be for the adult fans of the Addams Family who remember it back in the day, like myself, and even further back, like your mom and dads would probably remember the Addams Family. I mean, so there's not really an audience for this film. I mean, I'm not to say that there isn't any Addams Family fans out there. I just don't think that they're the demographic that this movie is aiming for. This movie is aiming for like the 10 and under demographic, and I don't think kids 10 and under really know who the Addams Family are, or don't really give a fuck about the Addams Family. That's like making a animated Brady Bunch movie. Nobody knows who the fuck they are. I mean, that's going to be one of the things that makes this movie flop at the box office, because I guarantee you this movie is going to flop at the box office. I don't see audiences like going in floods to go watch this movie. For one, the movie was barely marketed. I mean, can you really say that you saw any commercials for this film or any online advertising for this film? I didn't. I mean, that's because I'm always scouring the internet, and I like to think that my finger is not up my ass but on the pulse of what's going on in like Hollywood and movies. And this movie was flying below the radar, really below the radar. And I think that's another thing that's going to hurt this film, was that it wasn't marketed very properly. I mean, I put out there on social media that I was going to review this film, and a lot of people were just like, they made another Addams Family movie? Like, what the fuck? I had no idea. And I don't blame them, because again, this film was not really marketed at all. But enough about the marketing. Let me talk more about the film. Like I said earlier, this film is painfully boring. I mean, it's not funny. It bashes you over the fucking head with its moral. And it feels like really rushed. It feels like they just made this film because they wanted to keep this like IP, this intellectual property. They wanted to keep the Addams Family property. So they like rushed the fuck out of this movie. I mean, it's more apparent at the end of the movie where like it's ending and you're just like, oh wait, this is over? This is done already? I feel like I've just been sitting here for like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And I mean, the movie's nearly like 2 hours long. I want to say the movie's like 94 minutes long, and it feels like it's going like breakneck pace. I mean, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's good, sometimes that means that the movie's so entertaining that you don't feel like the passage of time. But this movie is like super boring and dull, but somehow like really fast paced. I mean, again, like the ending, it's abundantly clear that they want to finish this movie, they want to get it out of the way and get you out of the fucking theater. I mean, that's kind of all I can really say about the Addams Family movie. It's unmemorable, it's boring, it's not funny. I mean, also the animation is like really like cheap. I mean, I'm not talking about the way that the Addams Family look. They look true to what they're supposed to look like the original comic book strip. It's like the quality of the animation is like somewhere between like Scary Godmother and like the Jimmy Neutron cartoon from like back in the day. Like the animation for Jimmy Neutron was cool like 20 years ago, but like revisit that animation now and it looks like super fucking cheap. And that's what this movie looks like, super fucking cheap. It has like a real like straight to DVD quality about it. And for that, I have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. I mean, the only reason that this movie is a 5.5 is like it is sometimes clever, and the vocal performances from Charlize Theron and Oscar Isaac and Chloe Grace Moretz, they are good. I mean, even Nick Kroll, when he's not being super fucking annoying as Fester, he does give kind of a good voice performance. So for that, I gotta give it a 5.5 out of 10. I'm Ryan T, and hopefully I see you in the next one.